our guest of today's seminar, Dr. Anand Kumar, professor in immunology. He is 88 batch student. Many of the participants know about him and his commitment towards the professor. Further, he has been utilized a lot by the medical and health department during COVID times. He worked in tough times. Of course, he has a good reputation among the university faculty. So today's he is the most relevant, and government of Andhra Pradesh also recommended his involvement in the antimicrobial resistance awareness and all the other laboratory strengthening and every procedure in containment or prevention of this antimicrobial resistance. So I welcome Professor Anand Kumar Garu. Before that, today's web conference is on basically AMR, antimicrobial resistance prevention or removal or eradication, whatever it may be. It has to be minimized as minimum as possible. This is all for the One Health concept. All of you know, everybody is speaking about One Health concept, but the root cause lies at the soil itself. So if the soil is properly treated and all organic fertilizers which we use, then the growth of the plants will be very good and they are free from residues of pests. Particularly, we will use anti-pest. So after killing of all the pests, the residues what is available in the plant, leaves or other grain part, they will be directly passed on to the human being, animals in their diet. So if the animals are fed in a proper manner using all these organic nature products, either fodder or feed ingredients, the produce of the animals, either milk or meat, will be healthy and hygienic. Thereby, the meat consumed by the people, a good quality meat, good quality milk, and good quality egg. Thereby, the immunity status of the human being and their strength will be improved, and the resistance to disease certainly will be improved. So this is the One Health concept from soil health, plant health, animal health, human health. All the health, even the plastic pollution or the air pollution or the sound pollution, whatever it may be, all parameters will influence on the health of the human beings. So today, most of the countries are free from the hunger. Now the priority is provision of healthy diet to all its citizens. In this program, government of AP has designed a six-pronged strategy to contain this antimicrobial resistance. So number one is we have to improve awareness and understanding among all stakeholders, whether they are consumers and the producers or otherwise they are the input providers, to know the impact of antimicrobial resistance. So in that part only, we are now conducting this webinar for all veterinarians at all cadres, all cadres, and the day after tomorrow on Wednesday we are planning to give a lecture presentation in Telugu to all the farmers and this para-professionals. So second one is we have to government priority to strengthen the knowledge and evidence through surveillance and laboratory strengthening. One side strengthening of the laboratory, and the other side surveillance will certainly give a qualitative feedback about the impact of the antimicrobial presence and how to remove this residue, how to minimize. The third one is reduce the incidence of infection through effective infection prevention control. Control and prevention is the greater part rather greater one. So focus should be laid on the treatment control or prevention. Yes.
My phone.
So thereby use of antibiotics will be minimized as little as possible. Fourth one is optimize the use of antimicrobial agents in health and the animals. We usually use antibiotics in either subnormal doses or abnormal doses. We will never standardize, we will never give it a proper dose. So it leads to resistance of the organ usually be developed when we use underdoses and if we use higher doses. So further this passage of the antimicrobial agents will be more. So optimization is very need of the hour. We are doing the veterinary clinical practice. So optimum use of antimicrobial agents and the minimum use is the most important thing. So these are the 4-5 areas where we have to focus. So in this webinar, our professor, Professor Anand Kumar Garu will give a presentation on the what is all the major challenge points, what is the AMR, how to contain the AMR, what is our role in this health concept. All these things he will explain in detail. So now I will hand over the proceedings to Professor Anand Kumar Garu. Anand Kumar Garu, please continue the program.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, Simachalam, sir, for inviting me to give this lecture. Sir, is it audible, sir, my voice?
Yeah, you are very clear.
Okay, thank you, sir, for giving me an opportunity to present the most important topic of the day. So I directly go with the presentation. I hope all of you could able to see my screen. So could you able to see the screen?
Sir, yes, sir. Your presentation is visible, sir. Please proceed, sir.
Yeah, please. So good afternoon to all.
Switch on your video camera also, sir. Switch on your video camera also, sir.
Shall I switch it on? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. Good afternoon, all professional colleagues, all veterinarians, fellow veterinarians, my seniors and my fellow professional colleagues, budding veterinary doctors on the budding profession stage. So today the presentation is about the awareness and understanding the antimicrobial resistance. The objective of this topic is mainly focused on the awareness and understanding. Here, I'm not going into the details, the prescription practices, all these things. That's a different issue. Ultimately, may have to be taken up at the department level in the different classes of continuing veterinary education somewhere. So, so basic facts about the awareness and understanding, how much we know, what is its significance, why veterinarians are concerned, what is the significance of this thing. So, why we all of us are here today? The reason is World Antimicrobial Awareness Week. Every year it is celebrated from 18th to 24th November 2020. In 2022, this year it is celebrated. Every year it is celebrated between 18th and 24th November. So if you can see at the top, all the 4 organizations, you can see the Food and Agricultural Organization of United Nations, then United Nations Environment Program, World Health Organization, and World Organization of Animal Health. Till last year, of course, since inception, it was OIE. Now, for the sake of convenience, it is in English, it is given World Organization of Animal Health. Of course, I think all of us we know OIE is much older than WHO. OIE was founded in 1927, whereas WHO was founded in late 1950s. So all these 4 organizations joined their heads. They came together. Please.
Sir, please continue, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, please. So all the 4 international organizations joined hands together and they are celebrating under one health concept. This is observed. So the theme of this World Antimicrobial Awareness Week 2022 is preventing antimicrobial resistance together. Together means all the professionals, medical professionals, veterinary professionals, environmental professionals, agricultural specialists. All of us, we shall work together to prevent the resistance. And this is about the caption, handle antimicrobials with care. This is the basic logo of World Antimicrobial Awareness. So broadly, we can call the antimicrobials. Of course, all of us, we know the discovery of the antibiotics, the revolutionized the medicine. Without antibiotics, you cannot treat any infectious agent, maybe in the human health or animal health. No doubt, antimicrobials are essential therapeutic tools. You cannot replace them with anything. So in general, we call antimicrobials that include antibiotics, antiviral, antifungal, and antiprotozoal agents. But what is the phenomena, AMR? What is antimicrobial resistance means? Those organisms which are sensitive earlier, they become resistant to the action of antibiotics. That term we can call it as antimicrobial resistance. That means those bacteria or microorganisms which were used to be sensitive earlier to the antibiotics, now they have become resistant to the activity. The phenomena is called antimicrobial resistance. And though we call it as antimicrobial for a broader use, most of the times we talk about antibiotics. The reason is antibiotics alone, it is taking a lot of time for the whole world organization to come together. Then about the antivirals, antifungals, still it will take time. They are also equally concerned and still more problematic things. So throughout this talk, whenever the antimicrobial resistance is told, it's mostly restricted to the antibiotics. So this is a significant burden to the human and animal health. If you see the latest 2022 Lancet paper in the world, in 2019, about 4.95 million human deaths they are associated with the AMR, and out of which 1.27 million are directly because of the antimicrobial resistance. So these many deaths are found in 2019 just because of the antimicrobial resistance. Antibiotics are not working. Anyone who presents on the antimicrobial resistance, inevitably they present this particular slide. This is the slide of Dr. O'Neill in the UK government commissioned a survey to highlight the significance of antimicrobial resistance. This survey was done and the reports were presented. The reports are very frightening. If you see, this was submitted in 2014. In 2014, the deaths due to AMR are 7 lakh. Here you see, it is projected to be about 10 million by 2020. So by 2050, there will be 10 million human deaths because of the antimicrobial resistance. If you still want to see in the diagrammatically in a more appreciable way, you can see because of the tetanus, cholera, measles, road traffic accidents, diarrhea, even with the cancer also, all these things you can see how the AMR is contributing. It's a more than cancer. By 2050, the number of deaths because of the antimicrobial resistance in humans, it surpasses the deaths of cancer. So the time is running short. We have to take care about the preventing the antimicrobial resistance. And if you see the deaths attributable by 2050, the most problematic area is the Africa. You can expect these many deaths. In Asia, next these many deaths are there. So Asia and Africa together, they will become the hotspots for the AMR, and you will find you are going to find so many deaths because of the antimicrobial resistance. So it's a quite alarming phenomena. So this is what it happens in the animal sector. So the bacteria which they survive even if they are exposed to the antibiotics because of the phenomena antimicrobial resistance. And this problem gets worsened when you overuse it antibiotics. What happens here? They spread through the milk, meat, fish eggs. Then for this one, what happens? The antibiotic, they stop working. You cannot treat the infections. At the same time, whatever antibiotics we are giving, they will be excreted in the residue formats because foods of animal origin, because the veterinary science, basically the animal husbandry activities, it's for the foods of animal origin. So the meat, milk, fish, honey, eggs, whatever we say, they will be the residues. They may cause health problems in the humans. And some basically, if you see in the aquaculture, if they are found with any residues of antibiotics that are banned, entire consignments of crores of rupees will be rejected by the foreign people. So this is a huge economic loss to the countries and the sector also. Because of all these reasons, we shall focus on antimicrobial resistance in the animal husbandry sector. So if you see how the antibiotics are discovered, how the resistance is developed, this is a beautiful picture right from the 1940. You can see here when it is discovered, the penicillin in 1928 and the sulfonamides in 32, aminoglycosides. The penicillin resistance started right from 1940 itself. 1914 itself, the resistance started. You see, the moment the drugs are discovered, on the same pace, the resistance against the antibiotics is developed. The 59 resistance against tetracycline was found, 61 against methicillin, and all these things started developing against all the developed, like most important antibiotics, vancomycin, even up to 2006 and 2018, colistin and carbapenems, resistant gram-negative bacteria. It's a very, very significant thing. You can find different grades of the resistance, multi-drug resistance, extreme drug resistance, pan-drug resistance. Pan-drug resistance means this particular isolate, they are totally resistant of all the antibiotics still now available in the market. Such a dangerous things. You find isolates from PD or nature in humans, they are isolated. I will discuss about things in the coming slides. So what these antibiotics are meant for? Where all these things are used in the animals. In case humans, the antibiotics are used only for one purpose. That means whenever we go to physician for any infection, so we will be given antibiotics to treat the infection. But that's not the case in the veterinary medicine and animal husbandry. We have 4 classes where we can use the antibiotics. First one is the treatment. Of course, all of us, we know the therapeutic approach. Whenever infections are there, we administer the antibiotics. The animals are diagnosed with the disease. But we have 3 more issues here. That is a metaphylaxis. This is the administration of antimicrobials. Whenever it is perceived that these animals, they are in contact with an animal diagnosed with the disease. This you don't find in humans, metaphylaxis. And still worse thing is about the prophylaxis. In animal husbandry practices, prophylaxis, if you perceive the risk or you can establish the risk of any infection in a herd, will start feeding animals with the antibiotics. These 2 you don't find. And further, the most important thing is the growth promotion. So the antimicrobials used to boost the growth in the food animals. This phenomena, these 3 phenomena, the last 3 phenomena you can find exclusively in the animal husbandry and fisheries sector. So that is the reason why the animal husbandry sector is the most important area. The antimicrobial resistance is to be addressed. The awareness needs to be created, how it affects all the other sectors. So AMR in the animal settings, if you see, this AMR affects animal health, animal welfare. Animal welfare means you can find a lot of sports animals, pet dogs with the security forces. They're all required. Then economies. If the consignments are rejected, it's a huge loss to the country and reputation. The livelihoods. This is the most important point. Small and marginal farmers and also dairy cooperatives, meat sector, all these things. Millions of people they depend on for their livelihoods on this livestock sector. Their livelihoods will be affected. And of course, the very most important thing is the public health. The drug-resistant bacteria, if they are transmitted from animals to humans in a greater way, what happens? It becomes a public health significance that is detrimental to the health of the humans. So these are all the ways how the antimicrobial resistance in the animal settings is a cause of concern. So if you see the AMR phenomena, you can ask me a question. AMR is a very ancient phenomena. We might have read in our BVSC courses because certain bacteria produces bacteriocins which can kill the other bacteria. Yes, you are correct. This AMR phenomena is very old, right? From the millions of years it's there in the bacteria. Certain bacteria to attack other bacteria, they secrete certain chemicals which will kill them. But why we are concerned right now? Because the pace with which this particular resistance is increasing. Why it is increasing? Because from 1920 onwards, we are using all antimicrobials, and these antimicrobials, they are exerting the selection pressure on the bacteria. That is the reason we are finding the increased incidence of the antimicrobial resistance, the increased pace of developing the antimicrobial resistance. Here you can see here the important sectors which are affected: human health, animal health and husbandry, fisheries and aquaculture, agriculture. Very surprisingly, when couple of years back, I was very much ignorant about use of antibiotics in agriculture. When I read, I have seen spraying the tetracyclines on paddy fields. Really surprising thing I could find. Of course, in horticulture, we know along with pesticides, even some streptomycin also they are sprayed to the horticulture crops, which are highly unwarranted. Then in environment, all these things ultimately they reach environment. The antimicrobial residues from the hospital waste or from the urine or other secretions of humans and animals, everything goes into the environment. That is the most important one. So what we can understand from this particular slide is We need the targeted interventions in all the sectors because it is intersectoral coordination is very, very important to address this scourge. Unless there is intersectoral coordination, you cannot address. So you cannot do the things in silos, in individual sittings. Like human health people, they can say they're addressing the issue. They need not bother. Animal health people, they can say they're addressing the issue. They need not bother. It's not the case with the AMR. And AMR is the typical example for the One Health approach, where the intersectoral collaboration is badly required. And this is how it is projected. If you see the human health, animal health, of course, food is also separately included because foods of plant origin, animal origin will be there. Then environment, you can see the overlapping areas. And out of the antimicrobials produced in the world, 30% are used by humans, whereas 70% of the produced antimicrobials are used in food animals. Here itself, it gives the significance of the veterinary and animal husbandry sector. It's a significant role. It's a leading role in addressing the problem. Nearly 70% antimicrobials are used in the sector. And we know nearly 75% of antimicrobial used in the aquaculture also they lost into the environment from the ponds. And the municipal wastes, they include the expired and unused antimicrobials, pharmaceutical waste. Of all these things, what is important is up to 80% of the antimicrobials excreted in the urine and the feces of humans and animals. So they contaminate the environment. The residues will be there. Antimicrobial resistant bacteria will be there. All these things make the issue more complicated. So this is a typical case that the integrated action from all the sectors is required to address the issue of antimicrobial resistance for its containment. This is another example how all the sectors are involved. You can see here humans, the manufacturing waste, feces, then water waste, how it is created, and aquaculture, how the residues are sent, and the wild birds. This is very important. Recently, we have seen some of the reports in the Africa. The wildlife sanctuary, the droppings they have collected, they tested the bacteria for the antimicrobial resistance. Surprisingly, a lot of antimicrobial resistance is there in the wild birds, fecal samples. This is alarming phenomenon. Then about the livestock, from the manure slurry, the antimicrobial resistance bacteria and the genes, they will be disseminated into the environment. So this is a circle. It goes from one circle to another circle. Like I have shown in the earlier case, integrated or the intersectoral approach is required to address this issue. That is the reason all the core international organizations, FAO, World Organization for Animal Health, World Health Organization, and United Nations Environment Program join hands together under One Health approach to address this issue. So now we are concerned about the antibiotic misuse. When this first National Action Plan of AMR was started in 2016, when I used to attend the national meetings on the AMR, it has become a habit for most of the people directly in the meeting to say that antibiotics are misused in the animal husbandry sector. It has become very fashion to most of them. But it's unfortunate, misuse is there in both the sectors. In fact, to some extent, we can say the misuse of antibiotics is more in human sector. But ultimately, always the blame game goes for the animal husbandry sector. Without knowing the things, many people they project it's more used in the animal husbandry. So with the statistics, we have to counter. So why we are concerned about the antimicrobial uses? What happens when there is antimicrobial uses? More selective pressure is exerted. So that is one of the important key drivers for generating the antimicrobial resistance. So if more antimicrobials is used, the development of antimicrobial resistance increases. And at the same time, another phenomena that started by the developed countries like United States, they started using these antibiotics in the subtherapeutic level concentrations in the animal feeds. They termed it as antibiotic growth promoters. This phenomena they started in the 1950s, and in fact, US Food Drug Administration Department, they also give approval for mixing these antibiotics like aureomycin in the feeds to improve the animal productivity. So in the nutrition point of view, what they could find is that increased the feed efficiency, growth promotion was there in livestock and poultry intensive farming units. So then all the intensive farming practices, they started adopting this particular practice and there is more antimicrobial use. Therefore, naturally increases the selective pressure. So how at the point of microbiology, how the antibiotic growth promoters, they will help in growth promotion means all of us, we know inflammation is a taxing to the body. Inflammation drains the energy. It drains the immune system. So what they do, these antimicrobials, if they are used in the lower concentrations, they reduce the inflammation. We can see with the macrolides like azithromycin, all these things, they have anti-inflammatory properties. And also certain antibiotics like ampicillin, amoxicillin, they increase the host immune system sensitivity to pathogens. By all these means, they will improve the animal feed efficiency and promotes the growth rate and also gain of the growth. Because of all these reasons, without knowing the future consequences, antimicrobials were mixed in the animal feeds that ultimately led to the disastrous consequences. How the resistance is developed, very briefly, I will put it out a bacteria structure, how we can see these are the mechanisms how all the antibiotics they will act. These classes of antibiotics ranging from beta-lactams, aminoglycosides, macrolides, they enzymatically degrade the peptidoglycan, and all these things they are responsible for the development of the antimicrobial resistance, because these inhibitors they will counter the mechanism of action, modifying the targets, drug entry they will prevent, the efflux pump whenever the bacteria pumps out the antibiotic, there is no chance for the antibiotic to act here. So these are all the things in a simple way to present different target mechanisms of different antibiotics, how the inhibitors by different mechanisms they will prevent the action of the antibiotics and responsible for generation of the antimicrobial resistance in the bacteria. So if you take this particular case of World Organization for Animal Health, they have taken a survey of use of the antibiotic growth promoters in different countries. These many countries they responded. 27 countries they admitted that they are using these many antibiotics still in 2020 in animal feeds, ranging from doxycyclines to the bambrimycins, all these things, different countries. Total 18 countries they are using this particular flavomycin. Bacitracin is used by 15 countries. Tylosin is used by 15 countries. So the phenomena is still going on. The antimicrobial antibiotic growth promoters are still used in different countries in the animal feeds. So if you take continental wise here, what it is given here is the growth promotion. You can see the blue one is no use of antimicrobial growth promoter. Europe stands as very clean, and most of the countries they don't use the antibiotics as growth promoters. The problem you can see more in the Americas and Asia and Africa. These were the three places, Americas, especially South American countries. The phenomenon is more use of antimicrobials or antibiotic growth promoters in the animal feeds. So why antibiotics use is more in low and middle income countries? What is the reason? The reason is here, the prevailing environment is more prone for infectious disease. The tropical climate, other conditions, they make the climate more prone for the infectious diseases, and also the poor biosecurity practices at the farm level. We don't adopt much needed biosecurity. But here also you can find the paradox. So on one hand, small and marginal farmers, they feel it difficult to purchase the antibiotics sometimes in least developed countries for keeping up the animal health. On the other hand, the intensive farms, they use the antibiotics as growth promoters for improving the production. So this is the paradox you will observe. On one hand, where there is a necessity, there is no availability of the antibiotics for animal health. The other hand, where the animal health is keeping up, the farmers, or what you say intensive farming practicing farmers, they use it for promoting the growth. This is the paradox phenomenon. Here you find the listing of the antibiotics. WHO, it has listed different classes of antibiotics into critically important antibiotics, highly important antibiotics, and important antibiotics. Why we should classify in this thing? The reason is that we have to preserve the antibiotics, especially third, fourth, fifth generations of cephalosporins, glycopeptides, macrolides, ketolides, polymyx, and squinolones. They all come under highest priority in the critically important antibiotics, because for the past 12, 13 years or 15 years, no new antibiotic is prepared by any pharmaceutical company. If all these antibiotics are exhausted because of the antimicrobial resistance phenomena, we don't have any antibiotics to treat the human health or the animal health. So it is the utmost responsibility of the physicians and veterinarians to preserve the antibiotics by prudent use of the antimicrobials in human health and animal health. At the same time, World Organization of Animal Health, that is OIE, it has also listed the critically important antimicrobials in the veterinary medicine. There only one caution what they give is, unless it is highly warranted, veterinarians shall not use the critically important antibiotics listed by WHO in the animal health, unless it is highly warranted. Suppose the cost of the animal or pet animal or service animals, The animal health is very important. You have to preserve the animal. In such cases, you will be compelled to use these critically important antibiotics in these animals. But it shall not be as a routine practice of prescribing these critically important antibiotics like cephalosporins, glycopeptides, macrolides, because once what happens, if all the bacteria, whatever they are circulating, they generate the resistance against these critical important antibiotics, so you don't have any arsenal to fight the bacterial diseases. That is the biggest threat we are going to face in the coming days unless we take the appropriate action. So these are just some examples how the certain bacteria from the foods of animal origin, they reach the human and infect the humans. The Campylobacter species, Enterococcus species, Escherichia coli, and livestock-associated methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, Salmonella species. All these things, they are already having the resistance against different classes of antibiotics like fluoroquinolones, aminoglycosides, quinolones. So usually they are responsible for
Sir, please unmute and continue, sir. Please unmute yourself, sir. Please continue, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. Is it okay? Could you able to see?
Yes, sir. It is fine, sir. Please continue. Sir.
Yeah, that's fine. So these are all the things, different symptoms you can find in humans if these bacteria are transmitted from the foods of animal origin. So what that is the reason why the foods of animal origin are given a very important role in containing the antimicrobial resistance. This is the typical setting. On one hand, you can see the animal health setting. On the other hand, you can see the human health setting. In both these cases, the cases are presented with a bacterial infection. Some of them they're very resistant to the antimicrobials. In both these cases, therapeutic treatment will be given with antibiotics, but at particular interchange point, what happens? There will be exchange of the antimicrobial resistance bacteria between humans and animals, including the antimicrobial resistant genes. So this transfer of resistance between humans and animals is the most worrying factor. It may happen from either side. That means it is between and humans and animals, not from animals to humans or from humans to animals. It is between and humans and animals. And because of this use of antibiotic growth promoters, ultimately it was proved that the selection pressure was important in driving the AMR. So is there any effect if the antibiotics use is withdrawn as antimicrobial growth factors? Yes, this was the reason why in the Denmark, what happened in 1990s, the antimicrobial agent evoparsin, the antibiotic evoparsin was mixed in the animal feeds. So as long as it was mixed in the animal feeds, the researchers, they could find the vancomycin resistant enterococci in the animal settings. And the same vancomycin resistant enterococci was also reported from the humans. It's also isolated from the humans. So in this case, what happened? The vancomycin is very good antibiotic. If the enterococci are resistant to vancomycin, it is difficult to treat them. So the Denmark or Danish authorities, what they have done, they have banned the use of evoparsin in animal feeds. They have banned the use of evoparsin in the animal feeds. But surprisingly, in this case, what happened? Even 15 years after banning the evoparsin, still they could find some vancomycin resistant enterococci in both humans and animals. Then there was a doubt: is the link between the antimicrobial resistance and antimicrobial usage is so strong? But here, yes, it is strong to some extent. But here, one thing important we have to remember is if a bacterium becomes resistant to one particular antibiotic, the same mechanism of resistance it can use to develop resistance against another antibiotic also. That is the reason why you find sometimes a bacterial species is resistant to multiple antibiotics. The reason is the mechanism of resistance developed by bacteria against one antibiotic remains the same for the another antibiotic. Because of these reasons, you can find the bacteria become resistant to multiple antibiotics. At the same time, there is a link between using disinfectants and this thing. It has become so become a habit to always use the sanitizers with having the disinfectant. It's not always advisable. Sanitizers with the disinfectants, all these things, the world shall not be used routinely. If you see the toothpaste, you can find the triclosan. The triclosan is also used as an antiseptic agent. And similarly, we use so many quaternary ammonia compounds as disinfectants. If they are used for the long time, what happens? The bacteria develop a resistance against them. The same mechanism they use against the antibiotics. So excess use of, we could have seen this thing in the COVID-19 scenario. Instead of using the simple soap solution, ordinary soap solution, it has almost become an obsession for many to use sanitizer very frequently. It's not always advisable to use sanitizer. The simple soap solution is very, very perfect, even to kill the most pathogenic viruses also. So that's lacking, and this is called cross resistance phenomena. That means the resistance developed against disinfecting is also showing resistance against the antimicrobial resistance. So this particular phenomena is making the situation more complex. It's making it more complex. So in USA, what they have done, they have banned the use of quinolones in the poultry feed. So they have seen the result. After 2005, they could find out the lower levels of resistance in E. coli and Campylobacter species isolated from the poultry. So once they banned the use of quinolone in the poultry feed, the quinolone resistance came down dramatically in E. coli and Campylobacter species, which is a very good sign. But the problem started elsewhere in the China. What happened? They detected a colistin resistance gene, and that is MCR1. It's called mobile colistin resistance gene in the pigs. You can find the colistin resistance gene in almost all gram-negative bacteria of like Klebsiella, Salmonella, Shigella, Enterobacter and Enterobacter species. So this is the alarm bells. Why we shall be concerned about this one? Yes, there is a reason. Colistin is the last drug of choice for treatment of gram-negative infections in hospital settings in humans, especially in intensive care units. If no drug works for any gram-negative infection, colistin is the used, which is the last resort. And if the resistance is developed against the colistin, there is no drug to treat. We have seen many stories in COVID-19 condition. Those patients who are admitted into ICU wards, ultimately they became free from the COVID, but they acquired the hospital infection, nosocomial infections, and most of them they died of this nosocomial infection. In other cases, I have discussed with many physicians. They told most of them they died because of the nosocomial infections that are resistant to all the bacterial antibacterial agents. So in such case, the colistin, if the bacteria develop resistance against colistin also, we don't have any arsenal to treat the humans. Because of the reasons, China, Brazil, of course in India also 2018, Government of India banned the use of colistin in animal settings by Government of India Gazette. So now officially you cannot use, but as a veterinarian, it's our responsibility to see, to advise, to educate the people not to use by any off the label note or any of the means or any legal route using the colistin, because it will affect our own health in the coming days. So this one more phenomena is you have a Helicobacter pylori bacteria in the chickens. That's also found in the wet markets in Telangana region, of course in the nearby areas also. This Helicobacter pylori presently it is not a pathogen, but we don't know what happens. A non-pathogen may be turned into a pathogen in the coming days. So multi-drug resistant Helicobacter pylori in the poultry sector is detected. We shall take care about this one so that the resistance doesn't spread and that doesn't become a future zoonotic threat. So when you take about the global production of antibiotics, you see in the 2010 the production, you see the production estimated in 2030, nearly 67% increase of the antimicrobials. And there is 100% increase in the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And more antibiotics are used in animals than in human beings all over the world. That's the thing I have shown in my earlier slide. Nearly 70% of the antimicrobials produced by the pharmaceutical companies are used in the animal sector. So this increase will become 100% in the BRICS countries. So all the BRICS countries, they have to pay attention to develop action plan for containment of the AMR to address the issue. But whenever you take the antimicrobial resistance, always the cumulative selective pressure from both the sectors you have to take. That's what earlier we discussed. This issue of AMR cannot be addressed in silos. You have to take the issue from human sector and animal sector. So there will be selection pressure from both the sectors and ultimately becomes the cumulative selection pressure. This cumulative selection pressure reduces the efficacy of antibiotics against bacterial infections in both animals and humans. So many times it's discussed with the impact of the human health. We see these many human deaths are there, these many things will be there, but you don't find much references or many references against the animal health or significance of antimicrobial resistance on animal husbandry. It's not highlighted. This is the time for all of us to highlight its significance so that our policymakers or executives, they will take attention about this one and they will help us with the support, budgetary support to address the issue. So this AMR impact on animals and environment is equally important. As per the World Bank report in 2017, if you see, by 2050, the global livestock population will fall down by 3 to 8% every year just because of the antimicrobial resistance. So because of the antimicrobial resistance, the global livestock population falls by 3 to 8% every year. So in the event of high impact scenario, even 11% of livestock production is reported to be lost, especially in the lower and middle income countries. So you imagine when the livestock loss is there, it affects the livelihoods and also the importance of the animal protein for the human nutrition and also children nutrition. This is very, very important. How asymmetrically it is affecting in all the ways, not only human health and also animal health, but unfortunately its impact on the animal health and animal husbandry is still did not get much attention as it required, because the AMR is a complex epidemiology. It's a complex epidemiology issue. So for example, if chlorhexidine is used, the bacteria develop resistance not only against chlorhexidine but also against colistin, although you are not using. Same thing about triclosan, I have told. Triclosan, a bacteria develops resistance against triclosan. It also develops resistance against isoniazid, which is very important for tuberculosis treatment. So this is the one. There is association between antimicrobial resistance and use of biocides and disinfectants. I told you about the cross resistance. That means if there is resistance against antiseptics, the same bacteria may develop resistance against antibiotics also. Especially if you use biocides with a narrow action, the potential of this cross resistance is still more. Surprisingly recent, it is found in humans. There is an anti-epileptic drug called carbamazepine. Even this is also responsible for promoting the antimicrobial resistance. You see how the situation is complicated. Even the non-antibiotics, which are not meant for to treat the bacterial infections, they are also increasing the antimicrobial resistance. How it is happening? They are increasing the bacterial permeability and responsible transfer of antimicrobial resistance genes among different bacteria. So all these phenomena in a nutshell, what we have to say in this particular slide, the non-antibiotics, that means the antiseptics, disinfectants, they are also equally important in promoting the antimicrobial resistance. So we shall take care about avoiding use of excess use of the disinfectants and biocides in the animal farms. Then animal antimicrobial use surveillance. How we will take the surveillance? How many antimicrobials are produced in a country?
Sir, kindly stop sharing and start sharing again, sir. Your content is not visible, sir.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Could you able to see? Doctor, could you able to see?
Yeah? Yes, sir. It is fine now. It is fine.
Okay, that's fine. Once we talk about the antimicrobial usage, it is a very, very difficult issue in the animal husbandry. How many antimicrobials are produced in the sector? How many are used for the animals? So in humans, it is very easy. Usually, whenever anyone goes to doctor for treatment of infections, it is easy to get the calculations. But in the animal husbandry, it is difficult. That's the reason why World Organization for Animal Health, it has given a calculation that we have to calculate the animal biomass in the geographical region. How we will calculate the animal biomass means it's a total weight of live domestic animals in a given population in a year that is used as a proxy. It's called biomass. Then antimicrobial usage is reported in milligrams you divide it by animal biomass. That gives an indication about the antimicrobial uses in the particular area. This is the method adopted by OIE, and Government of India is also trying to adopt to the all departments in the different states. I think in the coming days, our department also will use this particular tool in calculating the antimicrobial usage for AMU surveillance. So this is the quantities of these are the quantities of antimicrobial agents used in animals when it is adjusted to biomass. Here again you can see in the Asia and in the Americas the use of antimicrobials is more when compared to the Europe. But here Africa there is some issue. Certain countries they did not report. That is the reason it is still less. When all the countries they report, I hope this will also will go up. That's the reason why for the entire world now the Asia is feeding. That is the reason all the world leaders they are very much bothered about the AMR in the animal husbandry and aquaculture, because the products of the animal foods they go to all the countries basically from the Asian continent. That is the reason all the world leaders they are very concerned about the AMR phenomena developing in the Asian countries. This is how from different sectors the antimicrobial resistance bacteria or the residues see from the animal farms goes as waste. It may go to the agricultural feeds. The animals they feed there. Then again that slurry goes to the fish ponds. From fish ponds from the food it goes to the humans. So it is a cycle how the antimicrobial uses in the humans, animals and agriculture, how it is the antimicrobial residues are that dispersed among different environments in the different sectors. This is a typical example how you can see here. Then about the antimicrobial surveillance. This is very important. I told you the first class itself. When the people blame that there is a lot of antimicrobial resistance in animal sector, we don't have any data either to counter them or to support them. We need data. Unless we have data, what is the antimicrobial resistance pattern in Andhra Pradesh or in the different geographical regions of the Andhra Pradesh, you cannot say the particular antimicrobial resistance is prevalent or not. So we need the sensitivity or resistance pattern of different bacteria in the region. We have to set up the laboratories with even phenotypic assays or genotypic assays, or with any high-end labs. We have to take up the studies. We have to give a picture. Here I will say one thing. 3-4 days back, Kerala government it released for the first time in India the antibiogram of the Kerala state. That means in Kerala, what are the prevalent bacterial pathogens? And what are the antibiotics against which these bacteria are sensitive or resistant? It's a very good document. It will be helpful for both physicians and veterinarians. Kerala is the first state to come out with the antibiogram. It will be very, very useful for the therapeutic approach. So that's the reason why AMR surveillance network under One Health is very, very crucial. We have global and national network there, but the data entry is limited. So the antibiogram, I told you this document will be very useful for the therapeutic approach. So in the AMR surveillance in food animals, presently we are restricting to only important bacterial species like E. coli, Campylobacter species, non-typhoidal Salmonella, Staphylococcus aureus. They're more focused. And even commensal bacteria like E. coli is also very important. The reason is the E. coli as a commensal bacteria, they're the potential reservoirs. That is the reason fecal samples are collected. E. coli is isolated. We can find out the drug resistance pattern in the commensal bacteria. It gives an indication about the scenario. What is the resistance pattern? What is the potential for transmission through the antimicrobial resistance genes? And another particular problem with the animal husbandry is the manure. Manure is a very, very hot spot in the environment for antimicrobial resistance genes. We have to take care, we have to advocate the farmers, we have to educate the farmers about this manure treatment to prevent or contain the antimicrobial resistance. You see typical poultry case here, conceptual framework, how AMR genes are spread in the poultry production system. So in the poultry production system, in the slaughterhouse, it goes as food to humans, or from the chicken cecum, what are the bacteria, they will go to the slaughterhouse, they contaminate there. And of course, in other way, the poultry waste also goes and contaminates the soil field. From this one, the water, it goes again to the humans and the community. So all the hotspots in the red, they are hotspots with the AMR genes. So this is just example of the poultry setup. How from poultry farm to slaughterhouse to human as a food, then to environment, again going back here. So this is how the hotspots about the antimicrobial resistance are generated. So in animal husbandry sector, mastitis is the condition where the use of antibiotics is mostly abused. It's abused, in fact, because those who are not qualified to prescribe the antibiotics, here the antibiotics are used. Of course, this practice is there in humans also. We need to educate the people to avoid this one. These are important species, and the most interesting and significant one is the livestock associated methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Once it originates from the animal settings, it infects the humans. And this particular methicillin resistant Staphylococcus is difficult to treat. It causes severe disease in the humans, make them incapacitated for some time. It affects the productive years. So sometimes difficult to diagnose also, unless you characterize it at the molecular level. So these are the things, the livestock associated methicillin resistant Staphylococcus is very important. Another surprising thing in our own study, what we could find out, in one of the study with the mastitis in the Gudiod area, this happened in 2013, one of the Staphylococcus aureus bacteria, it contained a particular gene called, this is called pentavalent toxin gene. This is usually not present in the Staphylococcus aureus of animals. It's present in the humans in community. Surprisingly, the Staphylococcus aureus that caused mastitis carried this gene. That means this particular Staphylococcus aureus originated from the humans. It originated from the humans and infected the animals and caused this mastitis. You see how the significant is the system. From humans to animals, animals to humans, this goes on, and the AMR, it continuously circulates between these two settings through environment. And the most important again is we are more concerned about the extended spectrum beta-lactamase producers of E. coli. This extended spectrum beta-lactamases is the higher generation of beta-lactamases produced by bacteria. What they do, they neutralize almost all the important antibiotics, including certain generations of cephalosporins. Certain generation of cephalosporins also, they become ineffective. So once you find the gram-negative bacteria with the ESBL category or AMC category, it is very difficult to treat them because we have only a few antibiotics available to treat them. All of us, we know about the New Delhi metallobeta-lactamase E. coli, because the first time it was reported from New Delhi, it was given New Delhi. There was a lot of uproar by coining the word New Delhi. But still, this is detected in mastitis also in Northeast. Now in South India also, the NDM1 gene carrying E. coli is detected in mastitis milk samples. So what is the significance of transmission to the humans, milkers, treating veterinarians, para-veterinarians? All these things we have to keep in mind what happens. And it is resistant to many bacteria, even the carbapenems, very important antibiotics. With the bacteria like Klebsiella pneumoniae, they produce carbapenemases to the larger extent. The carbapenems, they become ineffective in treating this bacteria. There is a reason a routine use of broad spectrum antibiotics and new generation of antibiotics, which are exclusively meant for human use, they shall be avoided in the veterinary medicine. They shall be avoided unless it is highly warranted. So then what has to be done to tackle AMR? So in the history of United Nations, only 2 times the UN conducted a World Health Assembly for 2 issues. One is the smallpox, next is the antimicrobial resistance. In 2015, 68th World Health Assembly endorsed a global action plan to tackle AMR. All the member states, that time they adopted a resolution approving that we shall develop a global action plan to contain the AMR. So in 2017, based on the global action plan, Government of India developed a national action plan for containment of AMR. And the National Center for Disease Control, which is the nodal authority at the Government of India, it released the guidance document for state action plan for containment of antimicrobial resistance under One Health approach. This is all our veterinarians we have to keep in mind. The significance of veterinary profession under One Health approach is highlighted, and it is the veterinarians who have to take the lead in the One Health approach. It is we have to take the approach. We have to take the active lead in One Health approach. And again, Kerala is the first state to implement the particular state action plan called CARSAP in 2018. Then Madhya Pradesh and Delhi, they have also developed their own state action plan. And Andhra Pradesh is the 4th state in the country to develop the state action plan called APOPCAR, that is Andhra Pradesh State Action Plan for Containment of AMR. This is available I can share if anyone of us you are required. I will share with this thing. It's available with most of the veterinarians. And the government constituted AMR cell with all the stakeholders. That is Director of Medical Health, Public Health, Director of Medical Education, Animal Husbandry Department, Fisheries Department, Drug Control Department, and ultimately the Environment Department, the Pollution Control Board. All are stakeholders. In addition, experts from medical health and veterinary health, they are also included in the cell. So this initiated the steps to contain. Government is taking seriously to address the issue. And the veterinarians, we have to project the significance here. And this is just briefly what are the different strategies. Here the awareness stands first, the importance one, the education and training, the knowledge evidence, the laboratories need to be strengthened. Glad to inform that the Director of Animal Husbandry has taken active interest in establishing the AMR network and already given directions to the VBR and ADDS to initiate the network by starting the standard operating procedures for the antimicrobial susceptibility tests, so that we can develop a network in Andhra Pradesh, so that in coming days we can develop an antibiogram also, so that it will be very, very guiding document for us. So the animal health for the biosecurity is very important for us. Then stewardship programs. The government recommends to conduct continued education programs for medical and veterinary people in the antimicrobial stewardship. That is very important. Then innovations, universities and research institutes, they have the responsibility to go for the innovations and R&D. The national international collaborations, the Andhra Pradesh has executed Indo-Dutch project on antimicrobial resistance. This was executed based on the agreements, joint agreements between the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Netherlands. We are very privileged to say that the Microbiology Department of Ecology and Veterinary Science under SV Veterinary University executed this project for the animal and environment components in collaboration with Siddhartha Medical College for the human component. The report is available in the website of Government of India. So we made a head start. That one our state made a head start in the One Health approach. So these are the things, and WOAH, that is World Organization of Animal Health, it has given this particular diagram, schematic diagram for prudent use of antimicrobials, improving the awareness, strengthening the knowledge. What is its significance? What is the surveillance? What is the resistance data? Then about the encouraging implementation, then supporting the good governance and the capacity building. See, most of the times we do the ABS in the diagnostic labs, but we don't have any standard operating procedures. Unless you do with the standard operating procedure, your results are erratic. They are false results. They don't represent the ground reality. Unless you do with the standard operating procedure, you cannot interpret the results also. So this is the basic action. And now we are moving forward with the designing of the SOPs, and Animal Husbandry Department will come up with the SOPs, and in the coming days, we will hope a standard operating procedure will be established to take up the antibiogram issues. That will be good guiding document. And of course, what to do to keep the animals and people healthy, to keep the antibiotics working, what FOI advises us. So improving the biosecurity is very, very important in the farms, because biosecurity, the measures, they prevent the transmission among the farm and also prevent the entry from the outside. Of course, our clean milk production is also important. We have to educate the farmers. Good farming practices, they come under this one. The vaccines are very, very important, because the AMR can be tackled in both human and animal sector, majorly with the animals and majorly with the vaccines. Even the viral vaccines also, they can cut down the AMR. How they will cut down? Say, for example, FMD vaccine is not given. The affected animals will be treated for the secondary bacterial infections. Even the sheeppox also same time. So you are compelled to use the antibiotics. But if the vaccination is given, it works perfectly. They are immune to the particular disease. They don't develop the disease. There is no need of, there is no incidence of secondary bacterial infections. There is no need to use the antimicrobial. So vaccines, we have to thrust on the vaccines. We shall go for advancements in the vaccines, the research institutes and the universities. They have to develop more vaccines to reduce the use of antibiotics. Then animals, we have to daily observation, data records, case records. We have to tell the farmers or the intensive farming units to maintain the data record. Of course, we shall avoid the use. We shall prevent the use as a growth promoter. And whenever it is necessary, then only we have to use. And also we have to advise them to consult only veterinarian, only qualified veterinarian. And when we get a field veterinarian sample, always, at least now we are the conscience diagnostic laboratories. They also joined in the Saturday. We had a virtual program with all EDDLs and the constant laboratories also. It is a preliminary step to educate them how to process the sample. We hope in the coming days they will come up with some standard methodologies. So they will collect the samples, how to collect, transport, and hand over the samples. So even we have to educate them in such a way that to avoid the antimicrobial residues, because we have to advise them the number of days we have to keep the animals without milking or without going for slaughter, so that the particular milk, eggs, or slaughtered for meat can be consumed safely by the humans. And also expired antibiotics disposal is very important. The Kerala government pilot project, they have taken up it advised all its citizens not to dump the expired antibiotics anywhere in the drainage. They erected dustbins. Only those dustbins they are advised to put the antibiotics, so that government will take them and dispose them in a proper way without any harm to the human health, animal health, and environment health. So for preventing the disease, improving the growth, all these things, we can advise vaccine, we can advise the probiotics and the phytochemicals, immunomodulators. So many immunomodulators, natural products or essential oils that can be used in the feed to improve the animal health status. So all these things we can advise, and we can have a liaison. University and the department have a liaison. Even with international collaboration agencies also, they are ready to collaborate with all of us for their trials. We can go for some new compounds which will be acting as immunomodulators or the balancers to help the host to generate immunity and prevent the infections. And treatment of animal manures, still pilot studies are going on. There are certain bacterial cultures. If you spread over the manure, these bacterial cultures, they totally kill the antimicrobial resistance genes, and the manure is free from antimicrobial resistant bacteria that can be safely used. So we shall advise the intensive farming unit, at least they can afford. They can afford these things. They can procure these type of cultures from the AMR solutions offered by different companies. They can spray, they can sprinkle these bacterial or yeast cultures over the manure for some time. Once they are treated, this manure will be free from antimicrobial resistant bacteria and the genes. Of course, the FAO advises a stepwise approach, prevention against infection. Then here already I told you to further emphasize, I have placed this slide. Unnecessary use of antibiotics shall be avoided. Critical antibiotics class which are exclusive for humans shall be avoided in the animals. Right pharmaceutical, the standard pharmaceutical company with the standard dose that shall be used under standard duration, very important. Prescription practices have to be evaluated at the veterinarian level. Medically correct way we have to use, and keeping the record is very, very important. These are all the things they advise in the stepwise approach. Here I want to quote the quotation of a famous veterinary epidemiologist, Prescott, is resistance anywhere is resistance everywhere. If there is a resistance in animal health, human health, physicians, they cannot sit pretty, because the time bomb is tickling from this side. If there is high resistance in the human health side, we cannot sit pretty, because it will be ticking from the other side. If it is environment is showing more indicator organisms with antimicrobial resistance, that is still a more dangerous tickling time bomb. So the resistance anywhere is resistance everywhere. So One Health approach is the most top to take, and veterinarians has the significant lead role to take part in this particular containment strategies. And this is just under One Health response to antimicrobial resistance. How humans, food, feed, plants, environment, terrestrial, aquatic animals, they can come together and help help each other together for the containment strategies of the antimicrobial resistance. Ultimately, the sustainable development goals of the United Nations we can achieve by that time. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I request if anybody of you got some doubts, you can kindly, now the forum is open for discussion. I request all the participants, those who have got any clarifications, to kindly interact with our professor to get your doubts cleared, sir. Now the forum is open for discussion, sir. I request all the veterinarians in the state who are participating to kindly come forward and get your doubts clear.
Sir, this is K. Murthy, Deputy Director, Amlapuram, sir. Responding, sir.
So please, sir.
Sir, Professor, sir, you are very clear and cool, sir. All the points, they are very, very neatly presented, sir. We are very much thankful to you, sir. We studied, we are a very old veterinarian, studied these things 30 years back. Again, getting refreshed, sir. Very clear and very thankful to you, sir. Sir,
Welcome,
as our respected additional director, sir, is in the forum, sir. Let me put a small doubt to our department, sir, because your thing is from the college side, theory, it is very clear, sir. But when it is implemented perfectly, only the goals will be reached, sir. But at the present day hierarchy, sir, we are running our department with 10th failed Gopal Mitra, sir, and animal husbandry assistants who are not even with BIPC, sir. They know only the classification of highly working antibiotic, costly antibiotic, and powerful antibiotic. These are the classifications, sir. They are being supplied with antibiotics. They will be able to prescribe the antibiotic and they can put it, sir. May they not be knowing the classification, efficacy, pharma, nothing they know, sir. Even we graduates are getting depleted of knowledge as days are going, sir. 30 years back, we know only oxytetracycline, streptomycin, sir. Now things have changed and all chemotherapeutic agents, these things, these norfloxacin, enrofloxacin, or quinolone group, these things are, we learn from knowledge, learn from people like you only, sir. When our studies are there, when we are graduates, these antibiotics were not there, sir. We are just gradually updating the knowledge by way of interacting with intellectuals like you and books and all, sir. And how these people who are not at all qualified, not at all knowing the things, they are liberally using all the things, sir, without any promulgation of any rigid rules and regulations, without the intervention of VCI and our department. Can these things be implemented, sir? Our goals will be reached, sir. I am of doubt, sir. Just putting my doubt only, sir. I am very much thankful to sir. Very clearly explained, sir. Lots of thanks to you, sir.
Sir, can I respond?
Oh, just a minute,
Yes.
He has a big doubt.
Yeah.
GD Garu and all the participants here, good afternoon. So this awareness or understanding of antimicrobial resistance is for all stakeholders, farmers, AHAs, Gopal Mitras, para-veterinarians, and graduate veterinarians. DD Garu, that's why I have invited from veterinary EAS to joint director. We the people at the writing stage or the steering stage, we have to guide in what way they could able to understand the concept and the damage what will happen in future to our future generations. So you have to design the own plan. So here, the awareness is more important as well as understanding the counter measures what will be taken by the government in strengthening of the laboratories, strengthening of the further all these sorts of supplies, and what are the doses. Even though we are educated, you told that we have graduated long back, but we have to, as a IVC registered practitioner, you have to update your knowledge and skills every year. Without thorough knowledge and without thorough involvement and acquiring skills, we are not competent to discharge our duties. Please understand the concept. It is not how it is not only the only animal husbandry shoulder the responsibility, the health department, it is the public health department, it is the animal husbandry, it is fisheries. This concept of entire thing comes under the one health concept. So we have to play our role. All officers are here. So only it is very applicable to say out of 2,000 veterinarians, only 150 plus veterinarians participated in this webinar. That is the involvement of veterinarians is of course it is a naked fact what percentage we are involved. So only professional, those who are interested professionally, they are only participated to best of my knowledge. So you guide your people and you guide your farming community and you guide your para-professionals how best they can deliver services in quality. Majorly, optimum dose has to be used. If you want to use, you should not use antibiotic. You have to focus on prevention of diseases. If at all it is needed, you have to use the optimum dose. What is the optimum dose? What is the most suitable antibiotic? You have to decide as a veterinarian. So university part is clear. So ours is the responsibility to implement to our what is the stakeholders, clients. సో రైతు కూడా మనం అవేర్నెస్ తేవాలి. సో దానికి సంబంధించి బుధవారం నాడు పారా ప్రొఫెషనల్స్ కి, అలాగే మన పారా ప్రొఫెషనల్స్ ఏహెచ్ఎస్ గోపాల్ మిత్రాస్ యాజ్ వెల్ యాజ్ ఫార్మర్ ఎంటర్ప్రెన్యూర్స్ కూడా మనం బుధవారం నాడు కూడా ఒక తెలుగులో సెమినార్ సేమ్ ప్రొఫెసర్ డాక్టర్ పి ఆనంద్ కుమార్ గారు విల్ అడ్రస్. సో kindly ask to all of your important stakeholders to join in the forum. Are you able to clear? Are you able to clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Very clear, sir.
Right.
Sir, as you pointed out, it is one health approach and all the departments are equally responsible. Drug control department, that has got a lot of responsibility. And one small funny thing I will tell, when this state action plan is written, there was fight between the fisheries department, drug control department. They used to blame each other. This is off the note I am saying, because you are not raiding people, the farmers are mixing antibiotics in the fish ponds. Then drug control department blamed fisheries people that since you are allowing the farmers, they are mixing this one. So this is how this started. But ultimately what we have to remember is that it is everyone's responsibility, and alone we cannot do. If everyone takes up the responsibility in their own domain, then all the domains it becomes integrated action. We can tackle the action. And one more thing, sir, we have come all the way. We have seen in the days of early 50s and 60s, there were lot many superstitions. If humans are vaccinated with smallpox, it is against AMR. So from such periods, we have come to this time. It will take time for the people to realize. Once people realize that the AMR in one sector affects their own health, it will take time. But our duty is only to educate, do whatever level we can do in our conditions, and updating, right, Dr. Simachalam sir, what you told, updating the knowledge and updating the technicality is very, very important. That's where we can stand. Otherwise, we cannot stand in the coming.
Thank you, Anand Kumar. So any doubts from any veterinarian? So there are no doubts. So thank you, Professor Anand Kumar Garu. You have given nice presentation and you have gone in depth.
Sir, one hand is raised, I think, sir. One hand is raised. Some wrong.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Doctor.
Sir, నేను డాక్టర్ ఓఆర్కే మాట్లాడుతున్నాను సార్.
చెప్పండి
సార్. నమస్తే సార్.
నమస్తే
సార్ ఆనంద్ కుమార్ వెరీ నైస్, చాలా క్లియర్ గా చెప్పారు. మా క్లాస్మేట్
మీరు కూడా వెరీ నైస్. ఆయన వెరీ నైస్. ఐ నో బోత్ ఆఫ్ యు. యు ఆర్ బోత్ ఆఫ్ యు ఆర్ వెరీ నైస్. బట్ వాట్ ప్రాబ్లం చెప్పండి
సార్. చాలా క్లియర్ గా చెప్పారు సార్. లాస్ట్ లో కూడా మంచి చెప్పారు సార్. కేరళ గవర్నమెంట్ వాడకుండా ఉన్న యాంటీబయాటిక్ డిస్పోజ్ చేయాల్సింది కూడాను. మన దగ్గర వాడనివి తర్వాత అసలు మన హాస్పిటల్లో ఉన్నవి ఎట్లా వాడాలో పొల్యూషన్ కంట్రోల్ బోర్డు వాళ్ళు ప్రతి సంవత్సరము డబ్బులు కట్టమని అడుగుతున్నారు సార్. అది కూడా మన దగ్గర ఉన్నది తీసేయించడానికి ఏదన్నా అవకాశం ఉంది ఆలోచిస్తే బాగుంటుంది సార్. ఆ పొల్యూషన్ కంట్రోల్ వాళ్ళతోటి తర్వాత ఈ యాంటీబయాటిక్ డిస్పోజబుల్ కూడా చూస్తే బాగుంటదేమో సార్. చాలా మంచి విషయాలు చెప్పారు సార్ ఆనంద్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ ఫర్
your problem is
elaborate and crystal clear and easy language. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
చెప్పాలని చెప్పేసి నేను క్లోజ్ చేసేస్తాను
సార్.
Okay, thank you all of you. Let us participate wholeheartedly.
Thank you sir. Namaste sir.
One health and healthy beings, healthy society, happy society. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the